Despite swinging around a massive scythe and looking like she's about to cull souls by the dozen, Sciel is not the Grim Reaper. In fact, instead, she's the best support character in the entire game of Expedition 33, hands down. When built correctly, Sciel becomes the engine behind huge, devastating combos, giving out free turns, ability points, and damage boosts like candy. In a strong 3-person party, she's pretty much essential if you want to have the easiest game possible. Pair her with Lune, Mael, or Verso, and you'll start seeing numbers that are out of this world. A lot of people try to play Sciel as a damage dealer, and sure, she can do well there. But where she really shines is as a pocket support for whoever your hyper carry is. In this video, I'll walk you through exactly how to build support Sciel, from her early skill choices and how to properly use her Foretell mechanic, to her best weapons and how her role shifts in the late game. As always, there is a full level by level build guide linked in the description. Let's start with the core mechanic of her entire kit, Foretell. This is a special stacking mechanic that Sciel applies to enemies, and most of her abilities either add, consume, or benefit from these stacks in some way. The more stacks on an enemy, the more fuel she has to either buff her team or shred a target when needed. Applying these stacks will generate Sun Charge, which also boosts her AP generation from using Moon abilities. Consuming these stacks will apply Moon Charge, which also boosts her AP generation from using Sun abilities. Then, when you have a charge from both, Twilight happens. Twilight boosts Sciel's damage by 50%. It applies double the amount of Foretell, and then eventually it resets back to no charges after 2 turns. Her job with Foretell is pretty much to use a Sun Charge, then a Moon Charge, stack Foretell fast, and then burn it when you need more damage, or AP to keep your team ahead of the game. Sciel doesn't really evolve into the juggernaut of a support she is until Act 3, when doubling damage becomes absolutely broken. So for Act 1 and Act 2, we are actually going to build her as a competent fighter with some supportive attributes. First up is Focused Foretell. This is your bread and butter opener. You tag a target with 2 Foretell stacks, and if they had none before, you slap on 3 more. So turn 1, that's 5 stacks right out of the gate, setting you up for more combos immediately. This is going to be your most basic Foretell applier as it works with minimal effort or investment, and it doesn't really cost a whole lot of AP. Searing Bond is another core piece. It adds 5 Foretell stacks to the enemy you're targeting, and 5 more to other burning enemies. That means if you're running her with Lune or Mael, who set things on fire like it's a hobby, you're getting free Foretell with minimal setup. Plus, it deals solid dark damage, and if enemies are burning, it spreads to them as well, and in the early game this is usually enough to pretty much kill everything. This is the better option between Focused Foretell in the correct situations. Ideally, you will have Lune going first in your turn order, who launches a Wildfire. This will set up your Sciel to then use Searing Bond, which will apply 15 Foretell stacks total across multiple enemies. And that is if the enemies are even still standing after the 2 attacks hit them, and from the additional burn damage they are receiving. This combo between Lune and Sciel will pretty easily carry you through both Act 1 and Act 2. Next, we have Plentiful Harvest. This is where Sciel is at her most supportive early on. It deals modest damage, but more importantly, it consumes all Foretell stacks on the target and grants 1 AP to an ally for each stack removed. That's right, 5 stacks equals 5 bonus AP. You can and will refill another character's entire action bar while doing decent damage. In the early game, when AP can be hard to come by, this spell is an absolute game changer, allowing Sciel's teammates or even Sciel herself to build up enough AP to launch a more powerful, high-costing ability. Now combine that with Intervention, which gives one of your allies an immediate turn and 4 AP. You see where this is going. She doesn't just enable big plays, she straight up hands them to your teammates on a silver platter. This is one of the best abilities in the entire game, and certainly the best ability that Sciel has. This ability is why Sciel is the best support in the entire game. In the late game, when you have cheater Pictos, this doesn't just grant your teammate 1 extra turn, it actually grants them 2 from the Picto. This is unbelievably broken. Abusing turn order is the easiest way to win in this game, and this ability contributes to that greatly. Then we have Spectral Sweep, which is great for stacking Foretell on tankier targets. It hits 2 to 6 times, and each hit adds a Foretell. Crits give even more. Use this when you want to build up stacks on bosses or bulkier enemies. And finally, we have Sealed Fate. Now this is Sciel's back against the wall, I need to kill something move, and the ability that lets her flip the switch from support to fighter. It does 5 to 7 hits of high damage, and if Foretell is present, each hit can consume a stack to double its damage. That means you get high damage output with a support character if you have done the prep work of applying Foretells. Put all of that together and you get an early rotation that looks like this. Start fights with either Focus Foretell or Searing Bond, depending on whether the target is burning. From there, use Spectral Sweep if you want to stack on more stacks. Use Plentiful Harvest to bank AP if you have a large amount of Foretell stacks on the opponent, and then use Intervention to hand an ally a bonus turn with extra fuel to spare. Then, if your team still hasn't finished the fight and you need her to get the job done, then use Sealed Fate, and watch the target vanish. That is assuming you have applied some Foretell on the target. This loop works in pretty much every early game encounter and gives your damage dealers everything they need to pop off. As mentioned earlier, I heavily recommend using Lune first in the turn order and using Wildfire to set up Sciel with 15 stacks and more damage. This combo really can win the early game by itself. If you're wondering how to build Lune for this, I have a build on the channel. I'll show my recommended early Pictos on screen now, in alphabetical order and where to get them, or you can just follow the link in the description for the full guide. Alright, so now let's talk Act 3 and late game. This is where Sciel transitions from a pseudo-fighter into a full-blown pocket support for your team's biggest carry. You'll be replacing Focused Foretell with Fortune's Fury, which is huge. Fortune's Fury lets you target an ally and double their damage for one turn. Pair that with Lune or Verso and you'll be chunking bosses for 7 to 8 figure numbers with ease. This ability scales harder and harder the higher level you go, which is why it's not really worth it when the damage is capped at 9,999. Changing a 3 million damage hit into a 6 million damage hit is significantly more valuable. You'll still keep Plentiful Harvest, Searing Bond, Spectral Sweep, Sealed Fate, and Intervention. The combo flow does change quite a bit. Instead of even considering using Foretell or an attack ability, it becomes really simple. Press Fortune's Fury on Verso, Mael, or Lune, then press Intervention on whoever you just amplified. Congratulations, you have now just turned that character into a tactical nuke, with probably maxed out AP, with 2 turns to do whatever they want. In these 2 turns, the enemies are likely all going to die, or come very close to it. For weapons, Sciel's early best in slot is Tesseron. It scales with agility and defense, so it plays into her natural favorite stat. And more importantly, it enhances her Twilight state, the biggest bonus of which is giving her an extra turn, whenever entering Twilight. This becomes completely redundant after acquiring Cheater, but until then, it's pretty nice. It also extends Twilight and gives you increased damage. Tesseron isn't super insane, but it does its job really nicely and scales well. Once you're in the endgame, Lithicin becomes Sciel's best weapon by a mile. It still scales with agility and now also scales with the better attribute in luck, but it takes her support to the next level. Depending on the time of day, your allies will either get greater rush or slow enemies. With Moon you get the rush, with Sun you get the slow. And during Twilight, both are active. So you're pushing your team ahead and holding enemies back passively. And we have not gotten to the best part. Every time Sciel uses a buff or debuff, which is basically all of her relevant abilities, she gains 3 AP. That basically means she will never run out of AP by simply just double buffing your carry on every single turn. It's an absurd economy loop that makes her unstoppable in the support area. For stats, go max agility first. It boosts your speed and scales with both weapons. Second priority is up to you. You can go super defensive with vitality and defense, but I feel like no matter what, she's going to get one shot, so I personally just go with luck. Because it feeds into her weapon scaling, and crit has good synergy with a couple of her abilities, making her a threat if need be. I'll display the recommended late game Pictos on screen now in alphabetical order. You can also find them listed in the leveling guide in the description. I do want to stress, get Cheater as early as possible. Cheater and Painted Power are the 2 strongest Pictos in the game. Painted Power is unmissable, but Cheater is available once you acquire Esky. That said, I wouldn't recommend grinding for it until the start of Act 3, because the boss is extremely hard early on. Sciel thrives with high damage allies. Lune, Mael, and Verso all benefit massively from her kit. You're giving them more turns, more AP, and in the late game, double damage on demand. Basically turning whatever character you want into a weapon of mass destruction. If you're not using her outside of a solo Mael build, you're just making the game harder than it needs to be. And that wraps it up, the ultimate support Sciel build. She's not the Grim Reaper the Scythe implies, she's the Puppet Master. With the right build, she'll hand out turns and fuel game-winning combos like it's nothing. Get her set up right and you'll never want to leave her out of your party again. It turns out that seeing bigger numbers is just really fun. The full build guide with Pictos, skill order, and weapon locations is in the description. Let me know what combos you're using with Sciel and who your favorite pairings are with her. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.